Good Gab, sponsored by Skillskin, a nonprofit organization empowering individuals with disabilities through employment. I know you've come to expect some awesome guests, but today we have outdone ourselves. We have Kendall and Trish Hopkins here. We're going to have a great conversation. We're going to learn a lot. We're going to find some resources, and here we go. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Great to be here.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a real pleasure to have you both. And yeah, what's happened in your world?
Well, first off, it's so great to be here. I have to say, I have not been in the brand new Spokane Downtown Library, and it's gorgeous.
No kidding, right?
Yes, we're enjoying it.
A treat to be here. And
did you check out the view at all at the big windows?
We're going to do that when we leave. We're going to check the view out before we go.
If not, I said, we've got to see the river from that angle. I've never seen that in my life, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, a real gem for Spokane, right? That the citizens of Spokane said, yes, the library system, had the wherewithal saying, hey, we're going to reinvest in this land. It's awesome.
Yeah. And I remember back in the day, it was a lot of mixed thoughts about what to do. But man, what a great plan.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed. So yeah, today, everybody, we got Ken and Trish, and we're just getting to talk about, some of the experiences that you've had, going through your experience and starting to use a wheelchair and, becoming, disabled.
Right. And I guess, our lives changed 8 years ago. Prior to that, it wasn't part of our life. And overnight, all of a sudden, everything changed.
You never think this will happen,
Yeah.
Never entered my mind. When you were running and then you decided to bicycle, and I was always throwing the caution out, be careful, I don't want you to get run over.
And I went out for just a nice little bike ride right before dinner, and I do have to say, Trish said, dinner's ready, don't go. And I went. I said, I'll be really quick.
I'll be right back.
Anyway, I had an accident coming into my own neighborhood, a bicycle versus curb or whatever happened. I toppled off. And then the next question, before we started, it was like, can you do anything after this? And I should let Trish share the moment the doctor came out and talked to her right before my surgery.
Well, the topple that he says was hitting a tree, and when he came off his bike. So a neighbor found him in our neighborhood, unconscious, and called. We were really lucky because someone in our neighborhood was a paramedic and was off duty and called someone immediately.
Wow.
And then the neighbor knew where we lived and came and got me. And we had already eaten dinner, the kids and I, and we have 3 kids. And they, at the time, were all living at home. And my daughter came and got me, and I knew from the look on her face that something bad had happened. So then they took me to where he was in our neighborhood. And I knew right then, the paramedic said, this is bad. And he can't feel his lower body. And I rode down to the emergency room with Kendall. And
I do remember, I don't remember any of what she's saying, so it's always fascinating to me to hear my kids' perspective or what happened. But I do remember her whispering in my ear in the ambulance that, Kendall, you've been in an accident, and apparently I was sharing the password to my email the entire time to her.
Well, when he
Like,
was getting
that was-
rolled into surgery, it was like he was giving me all this information on how to
That's really sweet.
Like who-
relay everything.
Yeah, like at work, if they need, here's what. Like, I don't think they need the password to my work email.
We need you to live
Yeah.
and get through this.
Anyway,
Yeah, it was wild.
Anyway, and then the doctor came in
Yeah.
and asked you a question.
surgeon.
The surgeon, yeah.
Because they took him right up to surgery because they were hoping they could reverse the paralysis. They were hoping there could be something done. And the first thing before they took him to surgery, they said, "What does this guy do for a living?" And I said, "Well, he's a radio guy." And he said, "Okay, he can go back to work." And it's just so strange because I kind of held on to that thought.
Sure.
And when I told Ken, it's just weird things when you're in the moment. It's like, well, you can go back to work. It's like you're grasping
there's
for
hope.
anything. Yeah, for your life. You're hanging on to shreds. So, yeah, I would say that to Kendall. You can go back to work. And he's like, well, I can't even put my pants on.
I don't even
How am I going to how am I going to go back to work?
Yeah. But that was a conversation that changed everything for Trish, because it's not just me, it's the family. It's,
Right.
it affects.
Right. It wasn't just you and I. It was the
Right.
three of our kids, and then it goes out to our extended family, our work family, and
Well, yeah, you were talking about, you've been together 38 years. Did I hear
Yep.
that right? Yeah, so it's like there's
Correct.
30 years together of building a life and a way and
Yeah.
just how you're living. And then what you're describing, it's like just everything changes.
Everything.
yeah.
And it doesn't seem like when I got out of St. Luke's, I was terrified. When they put the date up on the calendar of my release, I was terrified because I said, there's no way I'm going to be ready. I don't even know, how to shower by myself right now. How am I going to get out of here? So it was frightening, and those first couple of weeks were pretty bleak.
Well, he actually, they sent him to St. Luke's the first time too soon. The surgeon, and then was it the neurologist? Kind of where he had full feeling in his arms, and at some point an event happened. They think he had a spinal stroke because he lost half the feeling in his arms after the accident, and you're hanging on to that.
Right?
And that was where my original injury was at the T4 level,
yeah.
but the stroke brought the effects up to T6, which is kind of a little, it feels like I'm wearing gloves even though I am. Little numbness.
So they sent him a little bit too soon. The doctors were kind of a little bit of odds that when, the surgeon wanted him to get to rehab as soon as possible. And so he ended up having to come back because he had terrible nerve pain, which is a side effect of people with spinal cord injuries.
We hear that from some of our
It's
employees.
terrible.
And it lasts forever.
Neuropathy.
Nerve pain,
yes.
and he just had surgery on one of his arms, and he's got the other one to go because he had terrible shooting pain.
And
on
that
his
was
arms.
carpal tunnel.
Too much typing, huh?
Well, it's
typing and
Transfer the pressure of
Oh.
what they call the transfer from your wheelchair to
Yeah.
whatever
you're headed
and
to.
any repetitive motion, just wheeling, and I guess
It's
That
a
makes
symptom,
sense.
yeah.
I had no idea what it was until spinal doc said, "Well, you've got carpal tunnel syndrome." I go, "Well, I don't need that on top of that."
Yeah, but what's happening?
Well, people go, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's not a big deal." Well, his arms are his everything.
Yeah.
You know, a surgery on his arms, the carpal tunnel is not a big deal, but
Yeah.
Well, so that moment, it's like, yeah, it's like everything's changing. Now you're getting released and you're coming home and you're like, okay, well, we got to design our life a little differently. Like,
Correct.
a whole lot.
Well, and a lot of that started with a home reno, mainly the bathroom area. We had to get a ramp for me to get in the house. Luckily, we're all main floor living, so and we had just moved a year prior. Our other house would not have worked at all. So
Yeah.
not
oh,
only
fortuitous.
not only the physical change of things, but just how things work. And what I would say my mentor, who is, he preceded me in a wheelchair about 20 years.
Okay.
I still feel like a newbie. 8 years in, I don't know all the tricks on a wheelchair because I was mid-50s when they put me in a wheelchair.
Right, yeah, you weren't 20.
Half the guys that I was hanging out with at St. Luke's were just, popping wheelies down the hallway and stuff. It's like, wow.
I could do that.
Yeah. But anyway, they said, things after a year, things are you won't believe how much easier. And I'm thinking, we're living hour to hour, day by day. A year is forever. But every day it just gets a little bit better, easier, more efficient.
We did have lots of goals too, like the things that we had wanted to do, just able-bodied. We still wanted to do, how do you get on an airplane? And that's a whole strategy for traveling.
Definitely.
And, we needed a car with a ramp so he could be
Right.
independent to go back to work. And so he had to, it's like getting a new driver's license. You have to do a whole driving test. I mean, there's just all of these hoops he had to jump through.
It was being able to drive was unbelievably freeing.
And possible, right? Like the young people who may just been injured or they're starting to use a chair. Like,
Correct,
they're thinking
yeah.
that they may never drive. It's not true, right? The technology.
If
now.
you have the hand function or the function to do it, the technology out there for anyone with,
And of course, everybody that's has a spinal cord injury is different.
Sure.
Every single person. So we're always really careful of, what we can do, somebody else may never be able to do, drive. So
That's a great point.
based
too.
on function, and that we learn you can have the exact same injury and the effects are just different. Everybody deals with different functions, and so we are aware of that. Well, I'm thrilled to drive, but I know there's others who can't just physically. But what I loved about driving was Trish came with me, and I drove down to the same middle school that I taught our kids to drive, and I had to learn how to drive again. I
Right.
needed parallel park, and when I went to re-get my license, I had a guy in there with a clipboard and a hat, just like
How
when I
well
was-
did you score?
When I was 16, I did way better. I think I got a 96.
Better than me.
I believe when I backed around a corner, I didn't secure the vehicle. I don't know. I'm not sure, but I did pretty well. But I was nervous, just like, whoa, man, if I don't get this, I'm going to have to study and come back. I don't know. But that's a restart I never thought would happen.
And then how about like work? I mean, you're pretty known in this community. Like, did the community rally around?
Well,
What did that mean to you?
It was amazing.
before,
I mean,
yeah,
the businesses that stepped up.
and just it all started with my coworkers at work, Dave and Molly, and a team, and
We know them.
and our friend Mike, who was here, and all of that was happening. I wasn't even cognitive of what I was going to be doing that day or whatever, and the support from the community was just unbelievable.
Yeah, we needed it. You don't think it, but you're really trauma like that. You're just a deer in the headlights. You're just kind of going through the motions. What time do I have to be at the hospital when the doctor comes, and just all the steps. But Kendall was amazing. Even during rehab, I remember once the physical therapist was there early, and he goes, "Oh, you're early," and she said, "Yeah, somebody canceled their therapy appointment." He said, "You can cancel? You can."
Every day they put your schedule up there, and there's, physical therapy and this and that. And I was always like in athletics, and when they told you to do something, you just did it. If you're at the gym, okay. I didn't know you could say no.
We got to be out of here. We got to be out of this rehab hospital. They're going to kick us out.
And that was one thing I knew I could do. If, going to the gym or whatever, I said, I know I can do that, because it's like when you start running or you start, you just get into it.
But St. Luke's became our family. They became our support. I mean, they even had Dave and Molly come in and learn how to do a floor recovery.
That's awesome. So those
They're
supports
big
could happen.
support for the family, and the work
Absolutely.
they took Kendall down to the radio station in a big old van, and remember that?
They did. I do remember that. That was overwhelming. I was exhausted at the end to see and talk to everybody, but
Yeah, I bet. Just everyone descends on you.
just so awesome. And then on the side of that, the St. Luke's folks, a couple of them came down and talked with our engineers and our people about what changes should we make, and and the same at our house. They came up and advised, because we don't know what we should have and
Well,
shouldn't
remember
have.
when you said, "I've never had so many people looking at me while I'm getting into bed," because he had to
Yeah.
practice. St. Luke's took him up. It's like, how do you transfer from your chair to your bed? And
I said, well, I'll just do this. And they go, no, we want to watch you do it. Just because they want to make sure you're ready to go home.
Absolutely, and be safe, because that's where you can injure yourself again, right?
Correct. Yes.
I'm really curious, from when you got to work and you talked about, the engineers had to kind of like move some stuff around. A lot of the employers that we work with, when we're helping people, find jobs outside of Skillskin, they kind of get, I don't know, they're scared of what they have to do to maybe accommodate someone. Like,
they were ready to blow up the studio.
Ah,
I remember
but they
Kendall's
didn't
boss.
have to, right?
They didn't have to, and I remember it was a little bit overwhelming because Kendall wasn't able, he's recovering. And
I wasn't really part
I
of
remember
any of the
talking to
discussions.
Molly.
You were,
and it's
healing.
like, let's just bring it down just a bit, and let's just see exactly what
What
he needs.
might be needed.
Yeah.
I'm curious, was it a huge change that they had to make, or just a few tweaks?
Well, I do know right off the bat in our in the bathroom they made they had a toilet and a urinal, but they put a kind of a wall up or a door within the bathroom, and really in our studio they minimized some of the countertops to make a little more room. They were probably a little bigger than they needed. And I'm not sure what else. I'm sure they did automatic opening doors And I have a little clicker that I can magically open doors.
And you have a specific.
Now we know
parking
Kendall's
place.
magic. Yeah.
And they parking right up front. That's kind of reserved for me or anybody who would need that.
They were wonderful.
Oh, they
yeah.
were ready, literally, to blow up the studio and rebuild it.
Well, I love that they didn't, right? And I think that is a story that, anyone who's listening to this and maybe be a business owner on and thinking about, employing people, that maybe be using a chair or just whatever they're working or facing. Those accommodations just generally, in our experience, aren't, hundreds of thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars.
No.
It's just little tweaks. And people can, get back to work.
Well, and I even think about that about our home. When you first go into it, you're thinking on a much bigger
Sure.
level. But, just to do a roll-in shower or curbless shower, it doesn't need to be, blown out of proportion. It's just simple things.
Yeah, I think that's just that can be inspiring to the employers that want to hire differently abled folks.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So coming back to work, how did that feel? Like just from like that emotional standpoint, you're like, oh, I can't even imagine honestly, but I can think that like, can I still do this?
It was, one of those challenge points where it's, I'm sure I was.
It was rough. It was rough.
It was a little rough. Well,
Because I drove
Let me
you.
say this:
Okay.
my wife. I didn't get
The truth comes out.
I didn't get my license until maybe February, and my accident was in July. So when I came back to work, my wife drove me. She got up with me at 4:30 every morning, and drove me to work, and.
It was tough mornings.
It came into the, got me in the elevator, and once I was on the second floor, everything was good, and then she came and picked me up. So
It's like, okay, it's all yours.
it was,
I'll be back
Pass.
at 10.
No.
Yeah.
and it was exhausting. I know people think it's odd that you would be exhausted drinking coffee and talking for 4 hours. But it was very exhausting.
Yeah, you got to be
mentally,
on.
and it was kind of like the more I came in, the more my stamina is what it is. Could kind of work up because everything's different. I can't breathe as deeply, and obviously, if I have a long sentence, you need air, and so I could tell stuff is different, but it is going to work out. It's just part of me. And
you're adapting and evolving.
Yeah, it's all adapting. Everything is adapting.
Yeah.
No, I just ran out of
I
air.
agree.
That's a common story that we hear in our world at Scaleskin is around that idea of stamina too, because it's like you're starting to just have to evolve a little bit and change, but once you get there, you're there, right? Like I bet today is much easier than 7 years ago.
Oh my goodness,
4 years ago.
When I look back, it's amazing. And it almost is like becoming disabled is almost like you're a toddler again. You have to learn to do things. And you also have to prove to people around you that, okay, I can do this, because people want to help good-naturedly, of course. And you almost feel like you're just graduating every day because, I can do this and this. And, I never dreamt, 8 years ago that I could roll the bins out and take the garbage out,
And then
just
you don't
simple
think
things
twice.
like that. Yeah.
How's that work? When your neighbors come to you and like maybe was there ever any like discomfort and like asking about your experience, or even people like asking about your disability in general, or What's that like? Because I know, like, when I first got into the world at Skillscan, I was basically super afraid to, like, ask about anyone's disability, whether that be physical or intellectual, even mental health issues. I was like, I am going to say the wrong thing. And I know I did a few times, too.
Well,
but there was so much, like, forgiveness.
That's so much, so common. And I'll say this, even after my accident, I didn't know SCI, the spinal cord injury group, is a whole new group. I just assumed everybody was there because of an accident. I was, and then, no, I had a spinal stroke, or I was born with something that developed into that. I mean, I was a spinal cord patient. I'm still learning about that. But just me making people comfortable before they interact that's just a skill I use, because I'm used to talking and saying hey to people. And
so, yeah, my experience, just starting with Skillscan, not knowing, how to interact with anyone, with a physical disability or even mental illness or intellectual disabilities. I was just such a newbie that I was just afraid to say the wrong thing. And I'm just really curious, from like your perspective, and really both of you, because you each have your own experience on how people interact with you. Like, do you have some advice or even just, what have you experienced?
That's a great question. And actually our friends at St. Luke's, one of the greatest things our friend Candace has told us is just ask. Just ask. If you want to help, if you see like someone in a wheelchair struggling, just ask. They may need help, they may not. But that breakthrough, it's tough for me even, because if I come upon a fellow wheelchair, I always say hi or whatever.
Sure.
But if I truly went up to them, I don't know what their disability might be. Is it physical or mental? I mean, that can be challenging, but
just ask, right?
I think
Start
it's
there.
Okay.
Well, that makes sense, because maybe I'm just going to think about myself. Like, I think I'm a helpful person. I'm holding doors. I'm doing stuff. But if me just walking up and like maybe even grabbing someone's, like
Can
chair
be
or something.
disastrous.
Exactly. I am screwing
Correct.
things up. Disaster's the word. So yeah, don't do that.
It's like, can I
just
open the
ask.
door for you? Can I give you a push up your ramp? But people have been very helpful.
Unbelievably helpful. And I love I spent a lot of time in St. Luke's learning how to open a door. Heavy doors, and you do this and you do that. I love doing that, but I don't care if there's a 90-year-old veteran that wants to open the door for me. I will allow that and thank them up and down, because people just want to help. And that is everywhere. You can see that.
Yeah, that's true. I had as a spouse, it was hard in that, I suppose with my group of women friends, it was difficult to go, oh, let's go out to lunch or whatever. And the things they would talk about and the situation. I mean, everybody has their situation, and it's what you have to compare it against. But it has really taken some hard work. Like last year, I just said, I think I need some counseling. I've had to pay attention to everybody else since Kendall's accident. And I got to the point, it's like, I'm really kind of feeling down, and this has been a lot of work and struggle. And I think the mental health for both of us and our family really is a huge part of a disability. And so I really had to learn to listen to people and be empathetic to what they're going through, and just give grace to other people, and learn that you know, because it's pretty tough watching your person struggle and pain when they're in chronic pain, and with his job, it's putting a smile on your face, you know, when you're out in public, and he's more recognized when he's out in public because he's in a chair.
It's easy to recognize the guy in a chair.
Yes, it is. And then you start talking, and we all know you. But that grace, even for oneself, right?
Yes. I mean, it was like for his accident, I had to learn to do so much. I mean, that we never talked about even on a daily level. We had
I just did this and she did that.
yeah, we just did our things. And then all of a sudden I have to do his things he did. And
even the
yeah.
physical things, the flip, she did the snow blowing on our driveway yesterday.
Nice.
Normally
But, you know,
I would have
it's-
done that. She does so much physical stuff. that-
hey, anything battery powered, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, snow
Magic.
blower, I don't have to put gasoline in that thing. You know, I have to have tools too.
Definitely.
So that I can help him and do the things that we need to get done.
Efficiency-wise.
Yeah.
And I don't mind, since I'm at a seated level, anything at my level I can do. Well, I can fold towels, I can do the dishes, I can load the dishwasher and do all that.
It's like, are you sure you can do the laundry?
I do.
I'm not so sure about that.
Well, I do all
But
my
you-
laundry.
Well,
but
he
I-
does.
I-
He
So do
does
I.
the laundry. and
My
does
wife
the
banned me.
dishwasher.
She
Yeah.
said, no, it's you. So if you see any wrinkles, sorry, everybody. My bad.
I had to learn to, it was like fast. You know, you have to learn how to become a parent. Well, the same with disability. It's like all this stuff. And then when he said, I want to do this myself, it was like, oh, really? So I had to learn to backpedal and stay out of letting him tell me what he wanted me to do.
That-
So
So being able to communicate like really clearly sounds
Yeah, you
like
just
ultimate importance.
cycle through all these stages really fast.
Exactly. You're almost, like I said, you're like a toddler when you get out, and now, and like they say, in a year you won't even, the stuff you're stressed about now, in a year you'll laugh about, and that's true for a lot of things. A lot of it just stays with you.
So 8 years out, and you talked about your mentor. Is that in your future to mentor others?
We did go through a training
We did.
program at St. Luke's, like I would help caregivers.
Uh-huh.
So it was through the Christopher Reeves Foundation. And so I did that where they would match me up with a
spouse
a
or a
partner,
Yeah.
whomever it is. It could be a parent, a sibling, whoever that person is. And I would talk to them about just whatever they want to talk about.
So you did this.
And
How
then
it-
And
Kendall
are doing.
and Kendall goes in. They'll ask him to come in if there's a match at St. Luke's and talk, and I'll speak to the, whoever their person is. Just support for people. It just gives people hope,
Yeah.
It's like when they see us, oh, they're going home. They're going to go out to dinner. He goes to work. She actually took a trip by herself. It gives people possibilities for their own life, whatever that is.
Yeah, you can incorporate back to semi-normal. I mean, normal is just me rolling up my ramp into the van. That is normal now.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we can probably
But
go
it took
out.
time to get to that normal,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Totally did. I remember meeting my mentor. Actually, he rolled into the room at St. Luke's. I had no idea who he was, but I saw his fancy chair. He was all dressed up.
He had
looking-
great shoes on.
Nice.
good. And my first thought was, if I could get to that point, I think I'll be okay. And it was like, oh my gosh, this guy's rolling in like a businessman.
He owned his own business.
Owns his own business, driving in a big old van and
A cool
A
van.
cool van. And he is the one, after we became friends, that said, he goes, man, you can still dress good. You got to represent, man. You represent.
Yes.
It's okay.
Yes.
Yeah, you get your nice shoes on. Anyway, it was just, that is possible.
Well, you
And
can
so
tell
that
him
was
that
the
you are.
goal.
That vest is pretty good. Those diamond cut. Oh,
Yeah.
Well, so yeah, I just love that you're investing your time back in to others to inspire them. I mean that's just
Well, when
that's you got to be pretty
yes.
brave, right? Because you're
Well,
telling your truth.
I think it's part of your healing journey is being able to help others. I mean, you can't just be thinking about yourself all of the time. It's, we've really I've got friends in this community that we've just become a great support for each other. And that was somebody through Facebook saying, would you talk to their son,
So-and-so, yeah.
And I became friends with my friend Cindy, and we meet for lunch once a month. And I kept telling her, you need to remember to do stuff for yourself. You can't just keep the pace up. And I remember she said, okay, I've figured out what I want to do. I want to learn how to golf. You want to come golf with me? And I was like, okay. I thought, let's go get our nails done or something. But,
Did you pick up the clubs?
yeah,
Oh, this will be year 3, won't it?
year 4.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
it's really cool.
But I think community is so important in whatever your thing is in life, really find your passion to be helpful to others, I think.
I know that was part of my journey for happiness until I started, being in service to others. I didn't have that core happiness. It was always like the surface stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But when I took that mirror and turned it away from myself and to put it to others,
It
happiness
helps
started to show up.
It helps you heal to
Yeah.
help somebody else.
It does. That is, I love being able to go down and meet a new person. And like St. Luke's will match up, maybe a middle-aged guy that has a similar injury. And we were told that disability is a club nobody wants to be in. You just are in it. And we have met some of the dearest friends in that community, lifelong friends now. And that is so important, is to talk to others that are dealing with the same thing. And 90% of the attention goes to the person with the disability, but it is the caretakers, the partners, the families.
The friends.
Their
we had
lives-
friends that, our friends Rich and Sherry, they were there. They came down the night it happened, and they're still hanging with us,
Yeah.
Because really,
community.
when things happen, we kind of cycle through tragedies pretty fast nowadays, I think, because of social media. And
That's
it's
the
like,
truth.
okay,
Sure.
this next thing happened. See ya, that. But we've kept a really good core of friends before that have stuck with us. And the Johnsons who came down and fixed for traveling. Kendall said, "Hey, can you help me figure my commode chair, travel chair?" And he came down and he was on our roof.
It's like, here we go.
Yeah, he did, who just do anything, or the friend that's in the hospital every day with you. That was, our friends we're just feel very fortunate.
Yeah, and so if someone might be listening right now and they don't have their community, do you have any suggestions on where to find community? We talk about St. Luke's a lot. We like them. We're partners
Right.
with them. Anyone else
I have found my groups, so you can have positives and negatives, but the positives you can find. There's, partners in SCI, and I'm part of that on Facebook. You can find groups that way
A
too.
lot of Facebook disability groups, and we find out a lot of information just about equipment and
How to travel.
how to travel, and all those little benchmark things that.
And there's people always in the community, who hear of somebody and would you talk to them? And it's
So
a
just
great
being open
connector.
to
Yes.
connecting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I gotta go sideways just for a second because you're talking about travel. I'm just thinking about Spokane. How is this town built for using chairs?
It's weird. On a given day, I can be furious about it. But then other times it's like, hey, like I came right River Park Square parking. The very first disabled was open. I'm not complaining about that. I do get good parking places.
But
I
we've
would
had to
say
learn to be creative.
You have to be creative. Spokane is not a brand new city.
Right.
It was designed in the late 1800s and this and that.
There's lots
So,
of steps,
There's
but
lots of steps. There's a lot of older buildings. I never complain about a historic building that I may not be able to access everywhere.
but look at Clinker Daggers. They have steps all over the
Yes, they
place,
do.
and they have a ramp.
Yes, they do. See,
That
we
is-
can do better, and I think that as a country, screw the country. It's because we can't do anything about that, but we can do it. Yeah, sorry, listeners, but we can do something right here in our community, right? That's where we can
yes.
make the impact and help make access easier. Because when we've learned, just at Skillskin, the access benefits everyone.
Yes.
It does. Trish was talking about a roll-in shower, and we were thinking, why wouldn't
Everybody
care.
want this.
I don't care how old I am. I'm always going to want a roll-in shower, whether I'm on a chair or not, it seems like.
Yeah, it's good
Simple
for me
things.
too.
And she mentioned Clinker Dagger. Unbelievably, they spent money on a ramp, a portable ramp, and they trained their people. And we can go sit right by the river, whether there's stairs or not, in minutes. Just really nice.
That's so awesome, and just not crazy expensive. Again, it's just allowing more access for people, and
Well, and I
Good
just
on them.
well,
Good
the
job.
apps too. I just found an app that tells you what restaurants and all the different places in your community, and you can give them ratings. So
do you remember what that's called?
I can't. I'd have to get my phone out.
It's okay. We'll put it
I
in
just
there
did
somewhere.
that yesterday,
Yeah.
but
we'll
things,
put it in the comments.
Things like that are so valuable, to us.
Absolutely.
We're
And
constantly looking for ways, new and better ways.
Information comes from so many sources. Trish had a friend in her high school class, and a small class, but she said, well, we knew of each other. After my accident, she reached out and knew
Carolyn emailed me a whole list, and who was it? She knew the
She
wife of a
knew
football player.
the wife of Mike Utley, who was a
Okay.
former Cougar, Detroit Lion, and unfortunately had my same type of injury years before. But all of a sudden,
Whole list.
just an unbelievable contact. and
Resource.
Feel like we're not best of friends, but it's like, wow.
It'd
You
been
just-
years since I talked to her, and she was the first person who messaged
reach
me and
out.
said, hey,
like-
reaching out
Yeah.
to people.
So
So beneficial.
I love that so much. I could talk to you all for days, but I am so much appreciative of you coming on, our listeners, and just, giving hope for like what your life can be, like as a team as individuals. And
Yeah, there's always
it's
hope.
awesome. Yeah, there is.
Right.
In anything. It just might take a while, you know?
Any parting thoughts?
Well, I'll say this. You mentioned the word team. I can do a lot, but we're a team.
I see
There's
it.
Yeah.
so much that it's kind of like when you finish each other's sentences. Like I can roll and be down, and she knows, oh, he's got to open this. And we're just can kind of finish each other's sentences with our process, I guess, because the process is so much different, but it is now normal. But it is, if you don't have a teammate or a mentor or even someone to bounce ideas off of or just vent to, hopefully you can find that resource.
You heard it here. Get connected. Thank you both.
Thank
Kendall,
you so
Trish.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah.